gives and takes away. Yes, it does just that. Stock market has been a little bit of a pain in the ass. I went to try and trade today, and shortly after the live, I looked at the range. I was like, nah. And then I went away, came back, and I was like, not really good. And then I said to myself, you know what? No, I'm not going to do anything. And then some madness unfolded. NASDAQ takes a slumperoo to the downside. But what was interesting is when I'm looking back at everything, Nvidia was pumping up. Nvidia has managed to finish the day on 2.24%, right? It was nearly at 4% today. What's going on? Well, I'll tell you what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. Bitcoin, no 50. What do we mean by that? We're not getting 50 basis points, which has got me thinking, does the market believe that inflation is going to tick up? That's the question. Oil's climbing. So we've already got another reason to believe that inflation could be compromised. What's happened to the story about the economy is doing fine? They should be cutting interest rates. But it seems as though 50 basis points is now literally off the table. The market has priced it in. And now we're waiting for China to come back to the drawing board. They'll be back later on this evening in about 4 hours' time. So to put it into perspective, guys, what does it mean for Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin has done really well today. It made a move up and it made a move back down to only end up in exactly the same position as it was. Welcome to XRP. Tonight's live, man. Let's just break it all down and work out exactly what can we expect, because tomorrow is a free day in the marketplace in the sense where we don't have any news announcements and tensions overseas still being a problem for the market. That's no lie. And with oil going up, tells you investors are starting to run to commodities. Bitcoin is a commodity because there is effectively a supply, but it's not behaving like one. Let's break it all down, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are very, very well. Tino left, right, no 50. I've been talking to myself. How have I been talking to myself? Is everything working? Yeah, everything's perfectly fine. I ain't talking to myself. Tino said you wouldn't trade today earlier. Hard to step off the chart. I took blood at 63. Yeah, I didn't bother with it because NASDAQ was just bouncing up and down. I get very frustrated with NASDAQ at times. When it starts pulling stupid moves, I have zero interest in it because it usually means it's going to end up being like that all day. I wanted to see 1 point in NASDAQ to try and be cleared, which was the daily open. But nah, man, there was nothing for them. And then that drop to the downside was just a little burp in the marketplace. But let's break it all down, gang. Let's get with it. Here we go. So this is what we're talking about. War jitters, and of course, the yields have been moving up. We go over to the yields, and you can see 2-year yield has done relatively well. It's been marking up all bloody morning. All pretty much from last week, and then, of course, going into the earlier session this morning in Asia, and then they just consolidated sideways. The 10-year yield itself, same story. That's itching upwards. And when the yields move up, it's a problem for the stock market because it means it's costing them more money in terms of business to borrow. So yields are high, and the 2-year yield and the stock market, specifically the NASDAQ, is very receptive to changes in the yield. Okay, so always keep an eye out on the 2-year yield and the 10-year yield when you start your trading day. If this is going downwards, then you can assume that the markets are going to be all good and people are going to be plowing into stock. Oh, that doesn't look like it's the case. And when we look at NASDAQ, it is down a distribution day. So it's down 1%, 1.16% after that drop to the downside. So it only makes you think, okay, how badly has NASDAQ done? Well, it hasn't really done too badly, to be fair with you. But then when we go into the bigger picture of things and we say, where are we? Well, we're still near towards all-time highs, and it's not doing bad. It's giving back what it gained on Friday. Going over into Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin's done well to come up towards the violet vector candle to only come back down. And just to look at some price action that we did earlier on, for the platinum members, okay? We wanted to see Bitcoin make a little bit of a move to the upside today. So I'm going to just show you exactly what the setups were. I'll show you the crypto one because the euro one today didn't go anywhere. Euro didn't even move. I wanted to see euro mark lower, and euro just did not move at all. She just stayed in a very boring range today to only come down. So euro didn't really do anything. Gold, pretty much the same story as well. We just go over to gold and you can see gold has just done nothing, which is kind of what I was expecting as the day unfolded. Oil, we wanted to see oil make a pump to the upside. And then, of course, oil went and cleared out some flavor today. Look, straight up, man. It just made the move to the upside. Happy days on oil right there. So cleared the 77 mark. So oil's done very, very well. And even NASDAQ today, we were wrong on the NASDAQ in principle. So we wanted to see NASDAQ come down in the first instance to make a reversal back up in the New York session. So then what we saw NASDAQ do in principle was come down to that area that we were inside of the longs from. And then we saw a little bit of movement, but nothing active. And then it just rolled over from that point. So that was a bit of a dud play on NASDAQ in principle, but it was cryptocurrency that was the winner today. So Bitcoin, we wanted to see Bitcoin come down to test the 62,644 with the intention of them coming up to clear out the block support and try and make way towards the Asian session high. Go over to BTC and Bitcoin did come through nicely with that flavor. And that's where that was right there. So the 62,820. And then they just literally made the reversal to the upside and cleared our target. So that was happy days, very minimal drawdown in that respect. But I said to the guys, be mindful that I want to see Bitcoin come down first. It has to go down for it to effectively come back up to recover the violet vector candle, which you can see right here on the hour time frame. Bitcoin did just that. So where's the violet vector? Right here, or it was, there we go. The violet vector, they came down, swept the range, and then made the reversal to the upside, which is why you got to always pay yourselves, man, when you are trading cryptocurrency. Same story for Ethereum. She was sat inside the block support region right there, and we wanted to see a drop down to the 2422 region, and then we're looking to see some entry points, and they did effectively come down slightly towards that point. They made the reversal up to only come back down to our entry point to then try and come up. So if you did try and capitalize on those plays in principle, looking at it, Ethereum looks like it's forming the day setup. But of course, we're going into Asia tonight, so there's going to be a different scenario coming into play. And then finally, Solana. Solana was on the... Solana was doing some really good stuff here. I wanted to see Solana come down, test daily open, and then, of course, make its way up towards the block support region to try and tap that 150.99, and then she took out completely 152. So if you paid yourself, congratulations. If you didn't, it's a sad story. But this is the nature of crypto. See the green vector candle coming into play, reversal to the downside. Always take money off the table. Okay, cool. Now, again, back with the bigger picture of things. With Brent crude oil going up and, of course, tensions overseas, the data that's coming out this week, of course, nothing busy until Thursday, all right? And it is, I've just got a suspicion. I've got a suspicion because the market's going into it all saying that we're not going to be getting 50 basis points, okay? So as we go down for a little bit, it says here, Friday strong jobs report not only appeared to kill any chance of a 50 basis point rate cut in November, it's kickstarted chatter about the Fed leaving rates unchanged if economic data continues to come in hotter than expected. Do you understand what that means now? Means now that we could effectively have a higher yield, all right? That means the dollar dominance in principle is going to start moving up again, which effectively means that the Federal Reserve in principle, well, not the Federal Reserve, but Bitcoin is going to struggle. It really will. Because if they're keeping the rates unchanged, then they're not stimulating the idea of the M2 supply to increase or to go up, which means giving access to cash. I don't know what the Fed's going to do, man. Honestly, they keep moving the goalpost continuously. I just don't understand what they're trying. It's all there, you know? Don't forget this. It's going to be bank season soon. Earnings, they're going to be coming out with it on Friday, and we're going to know if this is really going to come into fruition. Remember, the last time the market crashed, we were going into the final quarter of the year. And when they started declaring their earnings, those unrealized losses were a problem. Go check out 2018 unrealized bank losses, and you'll see it was 250 billion. Now it's 16 billion. And we're in exactly the same position as we was before. All right. Now, check this out. That's embarrassing. Tell me that's embarrassing. Crypto adoption on track to hit 8% by 2025. Is that what the fuss is all about? Only 8%. Institutional interest and economic uncertainty are driving forces behind the accelerated global adoption of cryptocurrencies, according to a report from Matrix Port. Now, listen, it says here, global cryptocurrency adoption is approaching 7.51% of the world's population now using digital currencies, according to a report. 8%. I think that's embarrassing, given that cryptocurrency, it's a tech thing. And we all use social media to get involved with cryptocurrency. Why 8%, man, in 2025? That should be double. That should be at least more than 10% of the world using crypto, given that there's so much exposure to it. But it's got a bad name, man. That's the worst thing about it. Crypto has a bad name, you know? What do you guys think of that? I think that is a poor rating. Poor. We should be... It was 4% of Americans. That's the worst thing about it. 4% of Americans are involved in cryptocurrency. 8% of the world is going to be involved in crypto. That is bad. Sorry. That is terrible. Tina, what's the best ticker on TradingView to use when trading NASDAQ, NQ, MNQ? Okay, so just use this one right here. MNQ1. Use that one. All right, use the micros. Each broker is going to be different, okay? Adoption can't fully come while it's so difficult to use and there's not much real use for it right now. Do you agree or disagree? Do you think there is much of a case use for cryptocurrency? I mean, I would say there is. Like, let's be honest now. I'd say there's a lot of, there is a massive use case for cryptocurrency. There is. You've got control of your cash. You dictate what happens to it. That's the best use case on earth. That's all you need, really. And why are people not coming to the idea of it? What? Are people that fickle to the point where, oh, I've got a means to control my own cash? Don't want to do that. Let the government look after my cash. Yeah. Crypto, not too. That's what you're saying. That there's not that much of a use case, but there is, in my opinion. It doesn't make sense. And when you're trying to make sense of whether Bitcoin's going to be making a move to the upside or to the downside, like, look, Bitcoin, in my opinion, it's still got a lot of work to do. Okay, it's still trading sideways. Technical analysis will be like, oh, channel this, channel that, trend line this, trend line that. Well, when you're bouncing up and down, that's the problem you've got. But Bitcoin is, of course, waiting for the election because that's the only next big event that's coming to the marketplace. Holders yourselves, you're all trying to work out if it's now a good time to be buying or selling Bitcoin. But you just got to consider what's going on with the actual guys that are buying and selling the Bitcoin. You had lots of offers coming into play with Bitcoin. 17 million was sold today. And then, of course, we've got some more offers coming in where people are interested in selling the Bitcoin. It's starting to dry off a little bit all the ways up here. But in going into Asia tonight, there is a possibility that we do see some flavor. China's going to be seeing the movements that have happened. They've been off for a whole week. So, I mean, this right here is from, when was it? So we go into the 3rd of October. So last week, they've just been marking up. There's a possibility that China comes in and says, oh, I've got some profits, happy days. And then everything pulls back and puts us back to square one yet again. Okay, so this is something that you've got to really take into consideration when you are, as a holder, looking to work out when's the best time to buy Bitcoin. There is no best time to buy Bitcoin. You've just got to try and buy when the reactions are hitting the charts. When people are buying, Bitcoin is dropping. And when I say that, I'm talking from the guys who are happy to buy Bitcoin on the discount. That means bids, all right? When you see Bitcoin rallying to the upside, just know people are selling Bitcoin because these guys can't buy if no one is selling. That's what the pink is right here. It represents the sell orders, all right? So when you've got that in your minds about Bitcoin, then you're going to be a bit reluctant to say, you know what, I'm going to get involved now. I mean, wait till Bitcoin drops down, okay? So however much of a drop it makes, wait till it corrects. because then you're aligned with the guys who are buying when Bitcoin drops. When you're buying as Bitcoin's rising, you're not in line with the guys that are buying. You're in line with the guys that are selling, because for a retail trader to go and buy Bitcoin now, he needs it to be sold to him. And the only person that's selling the Bitcoin to him is the guy that bought it when the retail trader was selling it. Okay? And when you have that simplicity in your mind, you cut out all the BS that can be out there about trading, about anyone's opinion on it, even my opinion on it. Let's be honest. We know nothing. And everyone's speculating. When you pull enough Twitter posts and see that he says up, he says up, she says up, they say up, they said down, she said down, and you're going to come to an average, and it's always going to be 50-50, man. That's it. No one knows where it's going to go. Everyone's got, and what people will do is they will project out a bizarre price point and wait 5 years for it to come into play. And then when it hits, it's like, told you. Man, shut up. Told you. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Bitcoin's going to zero. Oh, okay. Hey, man, you mentioned just the 200, 800 EMA for the 1 minute earlier. Was wondering if you could expand on that and show how you would trade them from the ES, for example. I wouldn't... On the ES, I wouldn't do it on the ES because the ES is a little bit temperamental. It doesn't really move as much as the NASDAQ would, but Bitcoin is a cool candidate for it. And of course, NASDAQ is as well. The 800 EMA is this one right here. And the 200 EMA is this one right here. What I actually like to do is this. I get rid of the 50 EMA, okay? So we get rid of the 50, hide the 50 EMA. Get rid of the cloud. Okay. Hide all of that. Come on. Get rid of that. Okay. So it's not done it. But anyways. All right. So just imagine you've only got the 50, the 200 and the 800 EMA. All you're waiting for is expansion and then reversion back into the mean. Just wait for a bold move to come to the chart. There's your bold move. Price moved away from the 100, from the 800 and the 200 EMA, trending upwards. You're not interested in 50 EMAs. All you're looking for is the logic that they're going to break down and come back into the imbalance of the moving averages. Because remember, when you're looking at that, guys, you've got to say to yourself, where was the 800 and the 200 EMA at this point in time in the chart? Where was it? Look at it. It's all the way down there. So you're already going to be assuming that you're going to trade towards that point. Okay? So you just got to build your position and give it enough freedom to say, yep, you know what? I'm going to take a short from here, and trade back down into the logic of the moving averages. Happy days. And then as you go along with it, you end up seeing it does eventually go into that, the reversion away from the mean, deviation away from the mean back into the mean itself. And then you've got points of control. You've got the Asian sessions. I mean, it's all fun and games, but play around with it. Go back and just highlight any point in the chart that you can find a gap. And here's the gap. There's your gap right there. Go back. Is there another gap? Yes, there is. There's one right here. 800 and 200 EMA. Another gap. We got this area here. There's a gap right there in the moving averages. Eventually rolls over into it. Go back again. Find another one. Where what we got? Okay, we got that one up there. There's a gap right there. Expansion on the moving averages. Happy days. It rolls. Okay. All you're doing with that, guys, is just trading 800 EMA, 200 EMA, mean deviation, reversion. That's all you're doing with that. Vector candles are going to aid you in that and help you understand if you are getting in at the right time. All right. But don't aim for perfect entry. Aim for an accurate one. You can be 45% accurate and still make money. Okay. Any questions? Tina, can you explain what gaps are more? Gaps are? What do you mean by gaps? Price gaps. Can you explain why the Japanese economy can't absorb the 10-year bond yields above the 1% mark due to the GDP deficit? Can you explain it again? Okay, so what you've got to understand is the Bank of Japan, the reason why they're holding so many, well, the reason why they hold so much US debt, okay, is because their currency is the base for the carry trade, which means it's so deflated, right, that people borrow lots and lots of it, right? But if they were to increase their, if the yields were to go above a certain point, if their yield, okay, the Japanese 10-year were to go above 1%, okay, their GDP output will be doubled. It will be too much for them, okay? They won't be able to sustain that, which is why when you go into it, without going into too much detail of it, because it will literally bore you out, okay? But here is the Japanese bond, the yield, okay? As long as Japan can sustain, keep their yields below 1%, because it can go above it. Don't get twisted. It did go above it not so long ago, okay? But they need to try and keep their yields below 1%, okay? Now, if they achieve that, that means people are consuming yen. They want people to consume yen. And at the same time, they need their economy to be performing well. What won't work for them is if their yields are going up and their economy is doing bad, you've got a problem. You've got a big problem there. But they compensate it by holding or being the largest holder of Japanese of 10-year bonds. Okay? So when the bonds markets are going up, the 10-year bond, when that's going up, that's happy days for Japan. They're not interested in what their yen is. They're really not. Okay? But what we've got to be careful of is if they're starting to sell bonds themselves. Okay? So if I just show you this chart right here. Okay? US debt holders. All right? Look at this. All right? World top foreign holders of US treasuries. All right? So you've got Japan at the top right there. Okay? China is next, and the UK is shy of about 200, just 200 billion behind it. Okay? Nearly. You can see that Japan has been selling US bonds. All right? China's just been offloading that. All right? They've been selling it. How do you think they got their stimulus to go? Where do you think they're getting their stimulus from? It's been worth selling US bonds right now as of late because of the volatility. Just look at it. It's been absolutely wild on the 10-year bonds market. It's been crazy. And the volatility in the bonds market is not good for the marketplace. The bonds market in principle should be like this, ladies and gentlemen. Like if we go back and go back, all right, the bonds market in principle should just be sideways. It can't have too much volatility. It has to be really contained and controlled, something like this. When they're rallying, it's not good, man. The volatility is wild on the bonds. And that's what they've said. Like the volatility is absolutely crazy on the bonds right now. The yields is even worse, which is why you're seeing the NASDAQ making significant moves to the upside, to the downside, and the volatility index itself. Look, the volatility index is itching upwards. This could... Listen, I'm going to say this now. Look at this chart that I'm going to share, right? I'm going to say it now. I believe that inflation is going to come in and scare everyone. It's going to be a reading that they're not going to like. One of two things is going to happen. Take it back to the actual reading itself. The core price index, which was higher last time, they're projecting it to be lower. I actually think that core price is going to go up. And I actually think that the reading of CPI is going to, year on year, is going to show that it's gone up. It might go up to 2.4%. It could even go back to 2.5%. That's a problem. All right? And the fact that the Federal Reserve is now more reluctant now to cut the interest rates by 50 basis points. Now we're going to be all praying for 25 basis points until they then say, nope, we're going to make it unchanged. We're not going to cut the interest rates at all. That is a complete wet fish for me. Given that the start of the month, it was all about the 50 basis points, or we're going to get cuts. One bout of data from the non-farm payrolls completely switches it on its head. So now you're thinking to yourself, all right, so what's it going to be for crypto? Again, money supply. If it's not being released, if it's not being eased, okay, and there's no quantitative easing as such, then Bitcoin ain't going to be going up, man. People borrow money to trade. People borrow money to put to work. They get into debt purposely. What do you think the carry trade is? The yen. They'll borrow yen, sell it, put it into dollars, put those dollars to work. But you've had a very interesting dollar today. Look, the dollar has been holding out, and you're probably going to be seeing the dollar dominance and the euro going sideways over the next couple of days until the actual inflation data comes out. All right? We might look at this tomorrow and be like, yeah, it's a free day in the market with no news announcements. Well, the only thing that can impact the market is the war in Israel right now. Like, what else could they be doing? All right, that can make investors get a little bit concerned, you know? So you've got to really say to yourself, like, the only event that you've got to wait to clear off is the election. Once the election comes into play and the October surprise is over and done with, then we'll know exactly where we stand with it all. Holders are all going to be, I mean, if you are a holder of Bitcoin, wait until the election is done. That's all you've got to do. And then you have to wait for another election for another 4 years. So just wait a few more days and then you should be good. Any other questions? Any questions? Say, Tino, shoe back to the downside. Wow. The economy is fine, Tino. They keep saying it, so it must be true. God. It doesn't make sense. For me, it doesn't make sense. Tino, is it weird that Dixie oil and yields are all going up at the same time and VIX went crazy just before the Iran-Israel situation? Back to it, because I did say, look at this, okay? I think the VIX is going to shoot up. The volatility index shoots up and gets back up towards 30. That's a massive buying opportunity, in my opinion. Not financial advice, just common sense. The volatility index shoots up from this point, which is what's been putting pressure on the NASDAQ today, okay? If the volatility index does decide to mark higher and then come back into, where is it? And it comes back into this red vector candle region over here, okay? Then the logic says to me that assets across the board are going to slump, but they will also revert back as quickly as possible. This was the 5th of August right here. The 5th of August carry trade principle, when the Japanese increased their interest rate. Hedge fund managers wet the beds. They're like, oh my God, I can't be exposed to that liability. I need to get rid of my dollars and put it back into yen. And again, if you remember that time, Japan was telling domestic and commercial businesses, get rid of your liability in dollars, put it back into the yen as per requirement of the Japanese government. Could you imagine the US government going to companies in the US saying, can you load up on dollars, please? We need your help. People will be like, go and F yourself. That's exactly what they would say to the US government. All right. But with Japan, they did it. They were pulling all the money. And that's the cool thing about Japan. They've got that power to do that. But if the volatility index does shoot up, ladies and gentlemen, you've got yourself a big buying opportunity. Now, if we just go back into the stock market just for a minute, all right, just to help you understand what I mean by opportunities, okay? If you look at the NASDAQ, over periods of time, if you can see, you've got a correction here, you've got a sharp correction here, a little correction there, another one there, shoot up, correction, shoot up, and it comes down for a little bit of a time. That's a proper bear market in principle. And then it comes back up, little correction, back up, correction, back up, correction, back up. The faster that they move down and recover at the same speed, the more likely that you're going to see assets appreciate to the upside on the premise that they are going to be marking higher. So they have to be marking higher, all right? But the problem that we've got is from the volatility index perspective is, are we going to see the same behavior? Because when they tanked everything on the 5th of August and Bitcoin tanked, there are only a few people that got involved in that little drop to the downside. And everyone wet the bed. Everyone's like, what's going on? Oh, Bitcoin dropped because a whale sold Bitcoin. Shut up. It did not happen. It was the carry trade principle. Okay. It had nothing to do with crypto. Bitcoin just happened to be a byproduct of it. Everyone started selling. So Bitcoin was like, let's go down. Anyways, with that being said, the volatility index in principle will do this. This is the next event. It will shoot up to then quickly come back down because there's too much money right now sat in ETF money markets at $6 trillion. Okay. So this rally to the upside in the stock market is around $8 trillion. Okay. So when you, even if you were to take 50% of the money that's stuck in money markets, you have yourself a nice little stock market run to around $11 trillion. That will take the S&P over to 6,100. Happy days, you know? But Again, inflation is going to be the key thing. And I actually think that inflation is going to surprise us yet again. I think they're going to give us a surprise reading on purpose. The data's manipulated anyway. Any other questions? Tina, if you lost your voice, I can jump in and give them vector candle flavor. Man, you know what, bruv? Everybody has their own doctor. You ain't going to any other doctors. Welcome to Dr. Vector. Sorry, man. That's the flavor right here, bro. I'm joking, man. Anyways, what do you think about Bitcoin dominance? Will it ever drop if investors like BlackRock keep buying Bitcoin? Listen, man, I read an article earlier on about the altcoin dominance coming into play, and then it's going to start pumping in 2025. Get that out your minds. Bitcoin pumps, altcoins pump. Done. We're not in that cycle anymore. I don't think we are anyway. All right? Because Bitcoin dominance, even if it went down, you've got Wall Street coming in, picking it up, impacting that little cycle of altcoins. You think BlackRock's going to be like, let's not buy the ETF. Let's go to some unsecured securities, okay? Let's go into the depths of the meme coin world, okay? And let's just start taking some of our profits from the ETF and park it over there for our investors and start buying Bitcoin. Well, they can't even do that anyway. They can't buy meme coins, okay? So you've now taken that logic of Bitcoin dominance, altcoin dominance, all right? You've taken now and said, here you go, Wall Street. How about that? And Wall Street's like, cool, let's just earn some revenue. All right, cool. Now you've got all the enthusiasts coming along saying, the altcoin market's going to be pumping soon. Just say that Bitcoin's going to be moving up and altcoins will be moving up. That cycle's done. I'm sorry. Because you've got the power of BlackRock containing Bitcoin's ability to move. Again, why should the election affect Bitcoin? Why should inflation affect Bitcoin? If anything, inflation being up and Bitcoin cleared its all-time high. What, because of inflation? No, ETF. It was speculation. It wasn't because of inflation. It was because of the ETF. And if Bitcoin pumps on the ETF, but not on the grounds that inflation was high, Bitcoin's dustbin, bruv. It's done. All the purpose of you buying Bitcoin and getting involved in it is because it's deemed as the hedge against inflation. It's not if an ETF hype was the reason it sent it up. That's why Bitcoin ain't hit 100K yet. That's why it didn't hit 100K 2 years ago when everyone was screaming for it to go hit 100K, because everyone was of the same impression. That's my logic on it. Sorry. If I'm not saying the things that you want to hear, ladies and gentlemen, this game is not about hearing what you want to hear. It's you're setting yourself up for failure. Can the market maker go bankrupt when market crashes? Who buys? Prop firms, platinum signals, possible drawdown. What's this? I don't understand the prop firm thing. Can the MM go bankrupt when the market crashes? Who buys? You've got to understand that there's a certain strategies that market makers actually go by. Okay, the main strategy is how do they obtain delta neutral? How do they keep risk minimal or as neutral as possible? Okay, then you've got positive gamma, then you've got negative gamma. Okay, or gamma negative. And recently we saw a gamma negative situation. Okay, where what happened is dealers, to say, were short on Ethereum at the $3,000 mark. Okay. And what happened was they were in big positions on shorts on Ethereum, but Ethereum was going up. So they had to jump into what would be a gamma negative situation where they are short on Ethereum, but then they're buying it on spot to effectively try and bring the balance of delta neutral as close as possible so that they're not actually losing as much money. Will the market maker go bankrupt? No, the market maker doesn't go bankrupt, okay? But he's a facilitator. His goal is to match your liquidity with his. Now, when the markets are dropping down, like look at the 5th of August, when it tanked, that was a market crash. And if you're talking about market crashes, okay, the markets aren't going to go down to zero. That's not how the game works. There is always a supply which is going to get triggered at a specific point in time. right? So when markets do crash, there's lots of bid orders down below, okay? And when you're looking at as a liquidity pool, imagine you've got this massive pie. And at the bottom of the pie, there's this area here where it's lots of liquidity that the market makers, in principle, supply liquidity for. And they could be in positions that are 2 years old, 3 years old, 1 month old, quarterly. They're dealing with much bigger positions, but they are at the same time facilitating your transactions, the exchange's transactions, and of course, their own transactions. And it's just money just being moved around using various strategies to make sure that they're not losing any, because they do lose money, but they make it back so quick. It's just a different story. Can platinum signals be applied on prop firms? Be careful with the prop firms when you're using the platinum signals. You can use them, but just keep your risk to a minimum. All right. Don't over leverage. Don't put the bank down. All right. Because like look what happened today. Like, yeah, Bitcoin and Ethereum, Solana, they smashed it in the park for us. They won. They did really well and not bad. But if the risk factor from this entry point or this entry point, and you can absorb even a stop run, let's say you took the entry point at 145.21, okay? And your exit was 141.66. You go back into Solana and then you say to yourself, well, did that work out well for us? Well, yes, it did. So you go back into it. Where are we? Let's go to the 50-minute time frame. And you look at that and you say to yourself, what was the stop loss, Tino, from that point? Well, we wanted, where's the stop loss? 141.66. Well, that's where the 141. So it's not even on the chart. Can't even see it. So it's all the way down here was the stop loss. Okay. The entry point was 143.94, 145.21. Okay. So you go into it, 143.24. So it was 145. Where was it? Yeah, 145.21. So 145.21 would have put you at that point there, 145.66. But if you're just looking at it at face value, you're going to miss it because, look, you would have missed that entry point. So you've got to look at it in the sense where it could be a point that gets triggered, but you have to take the trade and go with my logic that I'm expecting price to go up. Happy days. It made the move up this time. Okay. So the setups are going to make you think about it whilst giving you guidance on where I think it's going to go. All right. So that's where the benefit is with the setups. Okay. So if you do decide to take part in it, my friend, just make sure you're keeping your risk to a minimum when you're using prop firms. And for anybody new, there is the discount for the platinum membership, which is 20% off. It's pinned to the top of the chat. Okay. This is the example of how you get the setup. So Solana bias long, 145, 143.94. This entry will be based on SOL aggressively moving lower. Just be flexible with the entries around the zone. I give stop loss, target, context behind it, and then you just yippee-ki-yay. You just go and do your trading, and then we finalize it at the end of the day and work out exactly what's going to happen next. I'm firing setups all the time, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be nearly a year now that I've been doing the setups, and we've done easy 1,500 setups. Just fire them 3 times a day, man. Just firing setups. That's why I say keep your risk to a minimum so that you can withstand the longevity of being able to take advantage of the setups. Because when you get paid on the setup, you get paid. Okay. You do make money on it. Like I think it was Friday I think it was Friday. Bitcoin was just doing numbers for everyone. Absolute numbers. Okay. So that's the platinum trade setups right there. And of course, I have forgotten the Ethereum giveaway, okay? Now, just to put things into perspective, okay? You don't get 0.5 Ethereum, okay, when you become a platinum member. That's not what happens, okay? It doesn't make sense. Like, you invest $99, but the discount 20%, right? And then I'm going to give you, $1,000. Doesn't make sense. No, that would be backwards, in my opinion. But this is the 2 ETH giveaway from BTCC, okay? And that right there, just screenshot this. It's going to give you the T's and C's on what to do, how to get involved. If you are a platinum member, you are eligible for 0.5 guaranteed to TR platinum members. So from the 2 Ethereum giveaway, 0.5 of it is going to one of the platinum members. That's what that means, okay? Cool. And this is BTCC, where you can trade NASDAQ, S&P, Coin, Mara, Apple, NVIDIA. If anyone traded NVIDIA today, you would have made a stack. And you've got it on this platform here. Where's NVIDIA? Scroll down. There you go. NVIDIA. You would have made a stack and a bean on NVIDIA if you did trade it today. It just went. It kept on going up non-stop. Look at that. Yeah? Not bad. From the open, no gap fills. Straight up. Happy days. And if you were in a drawdown on Bitcoin, for example, say you're in a short, you could have hedged yourself. You could have hedged yourself on that. Just on NVIDIA, for example. And then you run shorts on NASDAQ today. If you manage to capture it, you can do NASDAQ. NASDAQ is Tech 100 on here. If you just click that, go down, it says Tech 100. All right. So get involved in the BTCC story, ladies and gentlemen, and you get to be able to take part in the 2 Ethereum giveaway. All right. Got to be done with the Traders Reality link, and KYC is not necessary for anyone in the US or VPN. All right. Just don't deposit with fiat. Deposit with crypto. Okay. Cool. With that being said, any other questions? Okay. The win rate on the platinum setups is between 80 to 81%. All right. But that's over nearly 1,500 trades. That's a lot of trades. All right. And that's not across one asset class. Euro, gold, oil, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. So 6 assets. So it's going to be different for each one. And when you see, because they're all positively correlated, okay? When you see one day Euro moves up, like today, Euro hasn't moved, but Bitcoin has. So today, the guys in the platinum, if they saw Euro, I wanted to see Euro come down, okay? What did Euro do? Euro didn't do anything. It's done nothing. Okay. Still inside of the Asian session range, man. Did nothing. All right, this little burp to the upside. Not really interested in those. We wanted to see a big drop down, but it didn't do anything. But if you then switched over to Bitcoin, you would have made money on the Bitcoin trade. Even gold, it didn't do anything. And that's what happens. Some days Bitcoin doesn't move and Euro and gold make the move. So you'll understand exactly what it means when you do get into the feel of it. Okay. BTCC alternatively for UK. Oh, Mexi maybe. Happy birthday to anyone's birthday. Yes. Do you have NAS setups? Yes, I do NASDAQ setups. This was the NASDAQ setup today, which didn't work out. Okay. That was the NASDAQ setup. Well, it come down, okay? It did work its way down. It didn't invalidate, in principle, it didn't invalidate the actual stop. So if you were to take the entries on this, you would have been expecting it to come down anyway. And this here, 19,981, is an entry point on the premise that they were going to reverse from that point. So if you go to 19,981, at minimum, you would have got 19,947. So you would have been in the position, and then you would have seen a bit of a drawdown, but then they would have then reversed a little bit back up. Is it going to be that much more? Maybe going into Asia tonight because they've got the red vector candle regions per se. But, you know, the setup got triggered and it just didn't make the move we wanted. Now that position could effectively roll over into Asia, but I'm going to be doing a new setup for crypto, for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana straight after this live because we've got China opening back up again. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's live stream. Be sure to like and subscribe on the way out, and I'll be tuning into you all in tomorrow's market. All right? Take care of yourselves, gang. Mad love and respect. And I'll see you then. Peace. Stop winking, bro.